Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video, wherever you are, whatever you may be doing. Thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd Family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. If you jump on here live here on this Sunday evening, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Make sure to give the video a like, a thumbs up. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so and share the video on all social media platforms. And I trust and I hope that everybody's had a fantastic weekend. If you're one of the lucky ones that is still getting holiday time off from work, congratulations to you. I hope you are enjoying it. I know a lot of people this past week were off Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, as well as the weekend. Good evening, Kevron. Glad to have you here. As always, the only bad part about being off 5 days is that's pretty much a mini vacation. So it's just like taking a regular vacation. Anytime I take vacation from work, when it's time to go back to work, I don't want to go back to work. And that first day back, you dread all day long. And that first day back seems like a year because you were off so long. So that's the only bad part about all those that's been off the last 5 days. If you go back tomorrow, it's going to be hard walking into work tomorrow morning whenever you have to be at work. But tonight I want to talk about all the bowl games from this past week. And my plan is tomorrow to come on here and talk about all the bowl games coming up this upcoming week, because there was no bowl games today, but they return tomorrow. And then we pretty much have bowl games just about every single day this week. And of course, round 2 of the playoffs starts on Wednesday. But if you watch some of these bowl games from this past week, all the people that say nobody cares about bowl games, I've always said that's just an excuse people use when their team loses a bowl game. They try to make themselves feel better by saying nobody cares. And the reason I've always said that is because nobody makes you play in a bowl game. It's not mandatory. It's optional. So if you don't care about the bowl game, why are you playing in it? Now, the ones that choose not to play, they can say that. But you can't send 60 or 65 players out in a bowl game and then when they get beat say, well, they didn't care. Well, if they didn't care, why'd they play? Nobody made them play. They made the choice to play. And if you've ever played any meaningful sport, I don't care what sport it is, once you get on the field or the track or the racetrack or the court, whatever the sport is, once you get on the field, you totally forget about what your record is, anything else. All you want to do is win. So once you make the decision to play in that game and you get on that field, you want to win. If you don't want to be there, you don't play. But you can't say, oh, they didn't want to be there when they chose to play in the game. Nobody made them play. It's optional. They chose to. They care. And I bring that up because the Potato Bowl this past week, we saw Washington State defeat Utah State 34-21. And if you watch that game, the way those two teams battled and the way the Cougars got so excited when they won the game, you'd have thought that game was for the national championship. Hey there, Jacob. Glad to have you here. And hey there, David. Glad to have you here. David, I think it's the first time I've seen your name in the comment section. If it is your first time being here for whatever reason made you stop by the channel tonight, thank you very much. No matter where you're checking in from, thank you so much for being here. And I say no matter where you are because I don't know where you are, but I've had people on here from Bangladesh, India, Brazil, Russia, Trinidad and Tobago, and that's all the places I can think of right now. So no matter where you are, thank you so much for being here. And hopefully you'll come back some other time. David, thank you very much. And I'm glad you were scrolling and found the channel. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. We also had the Boca Raton Bowl where Louisville beat Toledo 27-22. There was a lot of rumors about Louisville's coach Brom being a candidate at Michigan, but of course all that's out the window now because they hired Kyle Whittingham. And I talked here on the channel this past week about, Kyle Whittingham pretty much resigning from Utah and pretty much without saying it, come out and said, I'm entering the transfer portal because, he's been Utah's coach for 21 years. He's 66 years old. Don't know how much longer he's going to coach. He signed a 5-year contract with Michigan. He may coach those 5 years and call it a career. But he coached at Utah 21 years. It's the only place he's ever been head coach at. And he resigned from Utah. He didn't say he was retiring. He pretty much just said, I'm stepping down. So it pretty much made it obvious right then that he was looking at other places. So I kind of figured right away he's going to Michigan. And I think I even said that in the video. And sure enough, he announced he's going to Michigan. And I think what it boiled down to was him being 66 years old, knowing he only has 5, maybe 10 years left to coach. He wins 9 or 10 games every year at Utah. They had a bad year in 2024, but outside of that year, if they go 8-4, it's a down year. He's a 9 or 10 win coach every year. Won 10 games this year. I think he's figured out by now that Utah, they're not in the Big Ten. They're not in the SEC. Unless he goes 12-0, he's not making the playoffs. And I think he wants a chance to coach in the playoffs at least one time while he's still coaching. And I think he knows, hey, Michigan's a Big Ten school. I can go there, and if we go 10-2, we'll be in the playoffs. And I think that's basically what it boils down to. But Michigan's got so much turmoil behind the scenes. They need a coach like Whittingham that's going to at least get their train back on the tracks, because they haven't just derailed from that track. They've derailed off the track and turned around and gone the opposite direction. I mean, they are an absolute crap show. So they need a coach like Whittingham to at least get them back on the right track off the field. They're fine on the field. It's the off the field stuff. New Orleans Bowl, we saw Western Kentucky beat Southern Miss 27-16. The Frisco Bowl, Ohio beat UNLV 17-10. The only thing about that game was Dan Mullen had a phenomenal first year at UNLV, but if you followed Dan Mullen throughout his career, anytime Dan Mullen plays in a meaningful game, he's going to get beat. Now, I know Ohio's not very good, but, they're pretty much on the same level playing field as UNLV is. They're about the same kind of team. But if you followed Mullen's career, you know that anytime he plays in a meaningful game, he's not winning. So that was the only thing that made me think Ohio had a pretty good shot to win that game, because Mullen can't win a game that counts. And sure enough, the Bobcats pulled it out. The Hawaii Bowl saw Hawaii come from behind and defeat California 35-31. In the Game Above a Sports Bowl, which, by the way, I still have no earthly idea what that means, but in the Game Above Sports Bowl, Northwestern beat Central Michigan 34-7. In the Rate Bowl, Minnesota defeats New Mexico 20-17. In the First Responder Bowl, UTSA beat Florida International 57-20. In the Military Bowl, East Carolina beat Pittsburgh 23-17. In the Pinstripe Bowl, Penn State beat Clemson 22-10. And I talked to a Clemson fan earlier today that asked me if I was shocked about the result from yesterday, and I said, not really. That's about exactly how I thought it would go. The Clemson team had talent this year, and for whatever reason, on the field, the talent just didn't compute. It doesn't matter how much talent you have. If the guys don't play well together, for whatever the reason is, you're going to suck. And Clemson had talent this year, and for whatever reason, the team just didn't play well together. So I'm glad that this season is mercifully over with. I'm also glad that Cade Klubnik's career is over with. I respect Cade Klubnik because this day and time, because of all the portal stuff and NIL stuff, you just don't see a lot of players that are committed to their school. But Cade Klubnik is actually a Clemson Tiger through and through. He loves Clemson. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see him back at Clemson in 5 or 6 years on the coaching staff, coaching in some way, shape, form, or fashion. But Cade Klubnik, I truly believe if he didn't make a dime, he would still play for Clemson. He loves Clemson, and I respect that. I appreciate that. But on the field, he just sucks. So, I love and respect what he's did and how much he loves the program, but he's just hard to watch because he still did the same things as a senior that quarterbacks do as freshmen. He just never improved and never got better. Not sure the reason, he just didn't. Fenway Bowl, Army all over UConn, 41-16. The Pop-Tarts Bowl, BYU beats Georgia Tech, 25-21. That's the one bowl game. They made that a playoff game. I'd be okay with it because the Pop-Tarts Bowl is the gimmick bowl, but they embraced that. They loved that. If you watched anything about it, you'd see that the end zones had sprinkles like you would see on a sprinkled Pop-Tart in the end zone. And when the game ends, the team that wins eats this big old huge life-size Pop-Tart. I mean, that game is an absolute joy to watch. That's the one bowl game that's not a playoff game that should be. That's the one bowl game outside of the playoff games that everybody should watch because of how much they embrace the Pop-Tarts and the whole bowl game and all of that. But you feel bad for Georgia Tech because, they had a chance for a 10-win season in which they don't get many of those to begin with, and they have not had one since Paul Johnson was there. And it looked like they were going to get there this year for sure. And then the last 3 games, they just fell apart. And now Haynes King is gone and Aaron Philo's transferring. So I have no clue who their quarterback's going to be next year. But it looked like they had a 10-win season for sure, and it just didn't happen. The Arizona Bowl, we saw Fresno State beat Miami of Ohio 18-3. New Mexico Bowl, North Texas beat San Diego State 49-27. The Gator Bowl, Virginia defeats Missouri 13-7. And then in the Texas Bowl, Houston beats LSU 38-35. And speaking of Missouri, their quarterback, Bo Prabula, is transferring. I don't think Missouri's 2026 quarterback is on the roster because the quarterbacks they have now are just not good. So Missouri's going to have to find somebody in the portal bad, or they're in bad shape next year at quarterback because the guys they've got behind Prabula, they're not the answer. But any thoughts on any of this, please feel free to let me know. Sorry about not posting so much the last couple of weeks, but we had Christmas. And then, of course, we've got New Year's coming up this week. And then I had some things that I couldn't control happen on Friday that prevented a video from Friday. But hopefully now we're back on here where we can post just about every single day. I appreciate your patience. If you follow the channel enough, you know that I try my best to post every day. The only exception is if the family and I go on vacation, sometimes I won't post when on vacation. And then since I cover high school football, and work high school football, sometimes during high school football season on Fridays, when I'm doing a game, there's no video. But outside of that, I usually try to post just about every single day outside of holidays. So hopefully now we can get everything back under control. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. I finally know why they call me a grown-up. I groan every time I get up. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of